And that's why they called it the axis of evil. They called it evil. Well, that's so much science there. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm drowning in science. They called it evil. Anyway. So here's an infamous science writer, Kitty Ferguson. It is possible to describe the entire universe using any chosen point as the unmoving center. The Earth will do very well, and no one can prove that choice is wrong. Scientists today prefer to picture everything in motion and nothing as being the center. If you haven't given much thought to the implications of the 20th century science, you may be chagrined to realize that because of the concept of relative motion, no one can prove that the Earth moves. Yet we have anti-flat earthers claiming unequivocally that they've proven it, and we are science deniers. Okay, next. I know they get kind of...
No, I like what she said. I think what she said is kind of profound, that if you believe in relativity, you can just sort of arbitrarily pick any spot. And I think she's right. You could choose Earth as the center of the universe and go from there.
Well, and if you do that, no one can prove that the Earth moves.
No, but look, there's a problem epistemologically. Can anyone spot the problem? Okay, with the expansion of the universe, nothing is not in motion. So that's just a model that is departed from the rhetoric. Therein lies another contradiction.
Actually, the expansion is going way too slow. Heliocentrism has been debunked in its own presupposition. It's off by 10 to the 120th power. It's not expanding anywhere close to as fast as it has to.
But you get what I'm saying about using the Earth is fixed, or using the sun is fixed, or using Jupiter is fixed, or using anything else that's fixed. No, you can't do that, because in heliocentrism, as we know it today, nothing is not moving. Not even the sun is not. I mean, obviously it's moving, but it's supposedly circling what?
The center of the galaxy.
Center of the galaxy.
Right. There's nothing that's not moving except for the thing that's really the space in the middle, in which nothing actually resides.
And then that space in which they inhabit is not moving, because it's not a thing in motion.
Which actually they even do claim, or they say that there's a curvature to space and time. In order for something to curve or to bend or to
there's that.
That's motion. But they just throw that out and disregard it because that would violate Newton's laws of motion, saying that there would be an equal and opposite reaction. The curvature would straighten out. But anyway.
In their paradigm, nothing is not moving, not even space and time.
Exactly. You can't bend something without it moving. Yeah. Okay, here's...
sickening.
Another physicist. Thus, we may return to Ptolemy's point of view of a motionless Earth. This would mean that we use a system of reference rigidly fixed to the Earth in which all the stars are performing a rotational motion with the same angular velocity around the Earth's axis. One as to show that the transformed metric can be regarded as produced according to Einstein's field equations. Actually, we don't, because that's pseudoscience. By distant rotating mass. This has been done by Thuring. He calculated a field due to a rotating, hollow, thick-walled sphere and proved that inside the cavity it behaved as though there were centrifugal and other inertial forces usually attributed to absolute space. Thus, from Einstein's point of view, Ptolemy and Copernicus are equally right. What point of view is chosen as a matter of expediency. Physicist Max Born. I mean, even with the assumption of relativity, man, it's just like, So let's see if you like this quote.
Yeah, but what he and Kitty are saying is that you can arbitrarily choose whatever you like as the center.
That's what's up. See if you like this quote. So I can construct for you a spherically symmetrical universe with Earth at its center, and you cannot disprove it based on observations. You can only exclude it on philosophical grounds. In my view, there's absolutely nothing wrong in that. What I want to bring into the open is the fact that we are using philosophical criteria in choosing our models. A lot of cosmology tries to hide that. Physicist George F.R. Ellis.
Okay. Yeah, I like that too.
So you agree that it's just philosophy?
Yeah, so I see what you're saying, and based on those three quotes, I see what you're saying, that it is a philosophical choice about what you choose to be the center of the universe. You have to do equations differently, but basically You could choose the sun, you could choose the center of the galaxy, you could choose Jupiter, the moon, or the Earth as the center, according to what these guys are saying.
So
And just a little note.
No, but that's a little. Actually, you would agree that to add on to what you said, the center and is a fixed, non-moving thing, right?
Right. The center
And that-
and being fixed and non-moving.
Right.
Just a little
so that
note.
doesn't work, regardless of what you use. It doesn't work for the current understanding of what the sky is supposed to be at all, right?
No, it works. I mean, it's just
Well, it doesn't represent it. Whatever you choose, our understanding of this reality, if we're to believe the story, is that nothing is at rest. So if you're using a model to describe reality, but you have to make it to where something is fixed, then in your paradigm of movement of everything, you would have to disregard the fact that everything moves in order to implement this model.
right. If you choose the sun as the center, then everything moves. The Earth moves, the moon moves, everything is in motion. If you arbitrarily
Except
choose
for
the Earth,
except for the sun.
except for the sun, right?
The sun is not moving.
And then if you choose the Earth, whatever you choose as the center, then that's fixed and immovable, and everything else is in motion. So everything
you
else
don't
is in motion.
arbitrarily choose the Earth. That's what all observations denote the default position to be.
Right.
You
That
don't
you'd have.
arbitrarily choose.
Yeah, because we don't feel any motion, and so that would be a good starting point. You could start there.
But how come they do the opposite? So
I think again, it's a philosophical choice. I see what you're saying now, and I agree that it's probably a philosophical choice. And
I'm trying to say this sentence right here.
You see how ironic that their philosophical position is diametrically opposed to the crux of yours, being a creationist?
no, because I think it kind of makes sense that the biggest thing God created in the solar system is the sun. That would make sense to use that as a good starting point, as the 0 point in the.
You disregarded the point. So in your paradigm, the Earth is special because the Creator made it so that we can live here. And the philosophical bias that has created the paradigm of heliocentrism to be misunderstood as if scientific and definitive is comprised of the exact opposite belief that the Earth is not special or significant and was not created.
I don't think it means we're less special.
And you can sidestep it. Hello?
Yeah.
No? Am I breaking up?
No.
You're good.
Oh. And you guys can come to it later if this is gonna derail the point that you're making. But when you say that, when you made that statement about the sun being bigger than the Earth, and you definitely said something about the Creator. From what part of Scripture do you get that the sun is bigger than the Earth?
Oh, not from the Scripture, not from God's word, but from God's.
All right, no. Okay, no more. That's just all I wanted to know. That you just said that didn't really have anything to do with.
So it's what.
May I please say this?
God is. He plays the role of God.
No, God.
I just want to say a quick note, real quick. I just want to say a quick note. Just let us be careful with the way we use the term philosophy, because we're tossing around the term philosophy as though it's just unjustified, unsubstantiated speculation, when that's not necessarily true, especially when philosophy consists of epistemology trying to establish a valid method of knowing so that we can justifiably claim to know what we claim to know. Just that's it. So it's really unjustified, unsubstantiated speculation.
That's when it's conflated to definitive science. That is the problem.
So when they choose the sun or the great attractor at the middle of this void, aka space, there's no justification for that choice to claim to know that to be the case.
Yeah. The ancient argument over whether the earth rotates or the heavens around it, as Aristotle taught, is seen to be no more than an argument over the simplest choice of a frame of reference. Obviously, the most convenient choice is the universe. Nothing except inconvenience prevents us from choosing the earth as a fixed frame of reference. If we choose to make the earth our fixed frame of reference, we do not even do violence to everyday speech. We say that the sun rises in the morning, sets in the evening, the Big Dipper revolves around the North Star. Which point of view is correct? Do the heavens revolve, or does the earth rotate? The question is meaningless. So, hey, Matthew, physicist Martin Gardner. Hey, Matthew, is that guy talking about rotation?
Yes, he's talking about rotation and motion. You could pick the Earth as stationary and motionless, and like he said, it wouldn't do violence to even the way that we speak.
So this guy's obviously saying that we haven't proven that the Earth rotates.
Well, he's saying we could use that as a reference frame. I mean, I think he would believe that the Earth rotates relative to the sun, but you could choose one or the other.
Okay, if he said that you can do it, then that means that we haven't proven that the Earth rotates, or we wouldn't be able to do it. It would exclude it as viable.
Notice that he said that you can do it. You can arbitrarily choose that. It's not saying that it's the only choice you have to make.
I never said that it was the only choice. I'm pointing out that he says, and this is a modern, infamous physicist, says that do the heavens revolve or does the earth rotate? The question is meaningless. He says that we can, to this day, utilize a stationary earth. If we had proven that the earth rotates, he wouldn't say that we can choose to understand that the earth doesn't rotate. Full circle to my full point, my initial point, and my macro, which is that the anti-flat earthers claim that we have proven that the earth rotates, and even Bob did it, and all the infamous physicists say otherwise.
To help Matthew understand even further, again, a priori, a posteriori. The earth is moving in heliocentrism, the earth is not moving in geocentrism. These are two different a priori theories that is trying to interpret the data. So in the controversy, they're both substantiated, but the problem is that one is justified, the other is not justified. See, it may be consistent, and then again, it's more so consistent with geocentrism than heliocentrism. The a priori theory is trying to interpret the empirical data, you see. So when you appeal to the empirical data, the a posteriori data, when trying to defend heliocentrism, it's unjustified. Why? Because there are far more empirical things that we're trying to interpret that are disparate from the academic cosmic paradigm, the ACP, than with geocentrism. Especially, above all else, concerning the Earth. Heliocentrism says the Earth is moving. Geocentrism says the Earth is not moving. We don't observe, we don't have any empirical experience of the Earth moving, which is contrary to heliocentrism, in concordance with, correspondence with geocentrism.
The Earth-centered system is in reality absolutely identical with the system of Copernicus, and all computation of the places of the planets are the same for the two systems. Astronomer J.L.E. Dreyer. I know it's redundant, guys. I'm sorry, but I just hope you guys save it. And, you can never have too many hostile witnesses. It is very important to acknowledge that the Copernican theory offers a very exact calculation of the apparent movements of the planets, even though it must be conceded that from the modern standpoint, practically identical results could be obtained by means of a somewhat revised Ptolemaic system. It makes no sense, accordingly, to speak of a difference in truth between Copernicus and Ptolemy. Both conceptions are equally permissible descriptions. What has been considered as the greatest discovery of Occidental wisdom, as opposed to that of antiquity, is questioned as to its truth value. Physicists' hands don't care. Reichenbach.
Yeah, so he's not saying it's true or false one way or the other. He's saying that you can arbitrarily choose as a frame of reference one or the other.
Matthew, when you say you can arbitrarily choose, you're saying that it's unjustified, like my point earlier. So when you choose heliocentrism as the a priori theory to interpret the a posteriori data, the empirical data, it's unjustified, especially because you don't have any empirical data of the Earth moving.
Can I give an analogy for how I think about this? I know analogies aren't very popular around here, though. I might get muted.
Why would you say that,
Matthew? Today, Matthew, I think this might be getting to you a little bit.
Yeah, why would you say, Matthew? Have I not used at least 40 with you?
Oh yeah,
here, around here.
I'm totally fine, and yes, you are allowed to use analogies. It's just that I am.
What do you mean allowed? You just said that it's not used much around here, where I hang around.
I mean, like when we Globers bring up analogies, it frequently gets shot down.
Whatever.
Okay, so here.
Go ahead.
Let's say that I'm on the freeway driving 60 miles an hour to the store. It probably makes sense to think of it as the store being stationary and I'm going 60 miles an hour. But technically, what all these physicists are saying is you could actually choose to say that the car is stationary and the store is moving towards me at 60 miles an hour. And the ground is moving 60 miles an hour underneath me and all that type of thing. And that's true. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, technically that's true. But it's not like, and they're saying you can't distinguish between, is the store moving towards me or am I moving towards the store? And it just seems to make more sense to say that the store is stationary because it's bigger.
But the only time both a priori theories would be justified interpretations of the empirical data is if in one, the Earth, the store is actually moving towards you. You actually have an empirical sense experience of the Earth, the cosmos around you, including the store moving toward you and you not moving, and having an empirical sense experience of you moving and the cosmos and the store in the cosmos not moving. But you don't have the former. You only have the latter.
Well, if you were in a really smooth car ride, it might feel like you're stationary.
See, that's an appeal to a subjective sense experience apart from an objective sense experience. See, you give these unjustified negation retorts. You wouldn't know the difference if the car ride was smooth. No matter how smooth the car ride is, and you can't even conceive, you can't even fathom a car ride so smooth that you can't tell you're moving. You can't even fathom that, and you have never experienced that.
No. Well, maybe not a car, but like a bullet train. Those maglev trains in Japan, they do this thing called the coin test, where they put a coin on the windowsill and it doesn't tip over, even though they're going like 300 miles an hour.
But again, you don't only have the sense of feeling, Matthew. You have 5 senses. Right. And when you're on the bullet train, or when you're on this imaginary, amazing car, I would love to take a ride in that car. Whether you're in any of these vehicles, you still see the Earth. You still see the cosmos around you moving. You can still hear the motion of the vehicle. You have all this empirical sense data that tells you the cosmos in which you are existing in is not moving, but the vehicle you're in is moving in it.
Why interpret it that way? Why not say that the car is moving and all the sound and the bumps is because the Earth is moving underneath you? I'm stationary in my car.
Because you don't experience that.
You do experience it. It's the same thing.
No, you don't experience it. You believe that you experience it. You have deceived yourself into believing you experience this because you have an unjustified faith commitment to that notion.
But no matter how the point you were making about first having evidence of the latter but not the former, again, you can apply the same understanding. And again, I'll ask you, please give us your active listening ears, because he just told you. Well, there is no instance in which you're going to get into a vehicle and not know that that's what happened and that you're moving. For you to then say, well, now that I'm in this moving vehicle that I've willingly gotten into, now I'm going to pretend in my mind that it's the Earth moving underneath. That is the only ridiculous scenario in which you can put it. But you would know in the offset that you began moving.
I love what you said there.
Especially Matthew, as a Bible believer, you should know better than to say such a thing, because the God has made the universe and he has made uniformity to the universe, and he has given us senses to experience empirical data that is trustworthy so that we can orient ourselves in this world. He would not build a world in which our entire sense experience faculties would be just antithetical to what is actually happening.
Gregory, I agree, and that's one of the best reasons, I think, for saying that we can trust our senses. To go back to Elijah's point, that yes, I love how you said it, Elijah, that we would be pretending that the car is stationary and the freeway is moving underneath us. And I think that's exactly the point that Whitsitt was bringing up. All these physicists say that you can pretend any frame of reference. And yeah, so if I'm riding in my car, I could sit there and pretend that my car is stationary, and there would be no way. I mean, they're saying it's not necessarily
true. No. In all instances, the frame of reference is stationary. They're not pretending that one thing is moving. No, in those scenarios, in all of them, the thing that you're going to be censoring is not moving at all.
Yeah, what they were saying is
it's not that you can pretend. It's not that you can pretend that it's not moving, but it is.
It's that it's a choice that you make. It's not based on sense experience. It's a choice that you use.
Yeah, but that's non sequitur to the point.
No, exactly. You just told us that your sense experience faculties are trustworthy. So trust them. When you look at the earth and when you feel your body touching the earth, you don't feel the earth rotating. You don't feel it moving at all. You don't see curvature.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. I tell my classes that had Galileo confronted the church in Einstein's day, he would have lost the argument for better reasons. You may use my name if you wish. Mathematician Carl E. Wolfman. I love that one.
I love all these quotes that you're showing with it, because they show that it's an arbitrary choice based on philosophy of what we choose as stationary.
You keep saying that. We've already destroyed it. It's not arbitrary. It's the default position based on empirical evidence. It's arbitrary to go pick the sun and then have no evidence. And
I agree. You're
a science denier if you don't believe your philosophical bias that can justify your atheistic lack of morality.
Wait, all these quotes that you did, they show that you can choose whatever you like, right? There's no way to prove one way or the other. And you're trying to prove one way?
Yeah, but when you wait, it's not, listen, movement, you keep on changing the argument. Because there is no movement for the thing that's in the center. So whether you pick, it doesn't matter what you pick. The only argument is whether or not the things are moving about us, or if all of the things we see, including us, are moving about the sun. That is the only thing you should be focused on.
Yeah, so Elijah, it sounds like you're trying to say that it is true that the Earth is stationary, but all of the quotes, including this physicist Hans Reichbach that Whitsitt just quoted, he said, "It makes no sense, accordingly, to speak of a difference in truth between Copernicus and."
Well, here's the thing.
24 after the hour.
When we map the sky to use it as a coordinate system, right? Because they're talking about different systems, right? So we mapped it on Earth. That's what we did do, right?
Okay.
Nobody mapped it from the sun or anywhere else. So from here, we've mapped all that out. Then someone said, well, I mean, you can pretend that the Earth is the sun is perceivably fixed in the center, like what it perceivably looks like here on Earth.
Anyway, the point is that Matthew said that you can prove that the Earth rotates, and he's wrong. So it's not just, you can keep trying to hand-wave dismiss it in this big basket, but that's the point. The Globers claim that you can prove the Earth is a movement, and that's patently false, and here are all of your priests telling you that's not true.
Okay,
There's no planetary observation. Go ahead.
I agree. It is patently false that you can prove that the Earth is rotating and in motion. When we say that, we usually are saying it with the unspoken assumption that we're using we're saying in relative to the sun or relative to the center of the solar system. So maybe we need to be clear when we say that kind of thing.
We're being very clear. You can't
as a retort.
Exactly. There is no planetary observation by which we on Earth can prove that the Earth is moving in an orbit around the sun. Thus, all Galileo's discoveries with the telescope can be accommodated to the system invented by Tycho Brahe just before Galileo began his observations of the heavens in this Tychonic system. The planets move in orbits around the sun, while the sun moves in an orbit around the Earth in a year. Furthermore, the daily rotation of the heavens is communicated to the sun and planets, so that the Earth itself neither rotates nor revolves in an orbit.
Yeah, so how would you answer my analogy of a car-centric system? I mean, we can't distinguish between my car being the center of the universe, and every time I drive to the store, maybe the whole Earth is rotating underneath me.
Well, we already addressed that, but go ahead with it.
Because there would be no sensory difference.
I've already addressed the macro here, which is you vaguely appealing to relativity, saying you can't tell means nothing. Because the default position based on all empirical evidence is that we aren't moving and geocentric, yet you're choosing to pretend that that's archaic and stupid and unfounded, when in fact it is your position that's arbitrary, unfounded, stupid pseudoscience based on a philosophical bias of depravity, thinking that the Earth is not important and in fact has much more problems and is less viable. So again, this is the macro. I'm not claiming that these people are saying that the Earth is stationary. I'm not claiming that these quotes prove that the Earth is stationary. I'm claiming that that's the standard default position based on empirical evidence. You're making a claim antithetical to that, yet you have no evidence. So I have all evidence. You have no evidence. You try to commandeer all the evidence by just appealing to a reification fallacy, saying that you can't tell. If that satisfies you, I don't care. I'm not in this to convert anti-flat earthers.
The Earth is flat.
Furthermore, if your final response at this point is to respond saying you can't tell, then that undermines your position, because your position is a claim to knowledge. But if you can't tell, then you can't know. And you don't know.
Well, so I guess I'm saying that if you're going to bring up this idea with all these physicists saying, that there is no, that you can arbitrarily choose what to count as stationary, and then it's right. Then it's a philosophical choice. You could choose the sun or the Earth or some other random place. And then if it's a philosophical choice, then I don't think that there would be a way to say that one is true and the other is false, because it's just a choice. You might say it's a bad choice, and that's fair. And maybe it is philosophical. It's like if God put us in a special place, then maybe we should choose the Earth as the center.
Well, one choice isn't viable, is what you're not understanding.
No, so just to say they're all viable, that there is no difference between them.
Well, actually,
what do you mean not viable?
Well, listen carefully.
There's no physical difference.
Listen carefully.
Matthew, you're fighting. You're just fighting it.
I'm telling you the truth. Listen, go ahead.
No, okay, listen carefully. The difference is that within the heliocentric paradigm and the idea of this vastness of a vacuum ever expanding, okay, you have a discrepancy of 95%. The expansion of the universe needs to accelerate 10 to the 120 times faster than it is. Whenever they looked at the galaxies, they only had 1% of the mass needed to apply relativity to the heliocentric model. This is unaccounted for, and to this day cannot be explained, nor can what occupies it even be defined, even theoretically. Yet, with geocentrism, we do not have that problem, okay? So it is objectively more viable, and it is rejected anyway, simply because of a philosophical bias to claim that the Earth is not important. So we have all empirical evidence, and we're the more viable option. It's just objective.